All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're exploring how the very foundation of your daily life is quietly acting as the ultimate weapon on the global chessboard. Welcome to this explainer on geopolitics in liquid form. We are going to look right past the fuel pumps and dive directly into the absolute heart of global power.
To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to use a zoom-out approach. Here is our roadmap. We'll start with the hidden empire, move into the rise of liquid power, then look at shifting global control, the geopolitical weapon, and finally, an enduring legacy. Let's get to it. Section 1. The hidden empire. Oil in our everyday lives. We usually just think of oil as the stuff that makes our cars go, right? But the reality is far more pervasive. Think about this. What could possibly link an ancient Egyptian mummy, a World War I battleship, and that smartphone sitting right there in your pocket? Well, the completely unexpected answer is oil. It's a resource that literally preserved the ancient past. The Egyptians actually used it in mummification. Fast forward a bit, and it powered the navies of the world wars. And today, it literally builds the physical framework of modern technology, right down to the plastic casing on your phone.
This perfectly captures the invisible web of dependency we're all caught in. We aren't just burning this stuff, we are practically living in it. From the sterile packaging of IV bags and syringes in our hospitals, to the synthetic fertilizers that grow the food on our tables, oil is absolutely systemic. I mean, even the asphalt that binds millions of miles of roads worldwide is a direct byproduct of crude oil refining. Without it, the physical framework of modern transport would just begin to unravel. It's really not optional.
Moving right along to Section 2, Rise of Liquid Power, from Babylon to the Model T. Let's zoom out a bit to see how humanity got so completely intertwined with this one specific resource. Sure, ancient Babylonians used crude oil that bubbled up to the surface as construction mortar, but our real energy addiction took a massive leap much later. For centuries, wood was the dominant fuel, but in the early 18th century, coal came along and completely replaced it. Why? Pure efficiency. A half-ton of coal produced 4 times as much energy as the exact same amount of wood. It completely transformed human productivity and set the stage for the true liquid power revolution. You can really see this momentum build on the timeline. The modern oil industry kicks off in 1859 with America's first commercial well, which initially just gave us kerosene for lighting our homes. But watch how fast this progresses. By 1885, Carl Benz invents the first motor car. By 1901, the spindle-top boom in Texas triggers this crazy rush of over 1,500 companies. Just a few years after that, Henry Ford makes the Model T affordable, basically crowning gasoline as the engine of modern mobility. And then 1914 hits. World War I triggers a global arms race, with major navies totally abandoning coal for oil, simply because it allowed warships to move faster and stay out at sea much longer.
Section 3. Shifting global control. Corporations, nations, and consumption. As demand skyrocketed through the 20th century, the battle for who actually controlled this resource completely rewired the global power structure. Historically, control was in the hands of massive corporations. Back in 1879, Standard Oil controlled about 90% of U.S. refining capacity. Later on, a cartel known as the Seven Sisters shaped global supply, controlling a massive 93% of production in 1972. But look at how drastically power has shifted today. National oil companies, which are state-owned entities, now assert control over roughly 73% of global production. Power has literally moved from the corporate boardroom directly to the state.
And the sheer scale of our modern dependency is just staggering. Looking at the top consumers, the USA is burning through an incredible 20.2 million barrels every single day, with China right behind them at 16.2 million barrels. When you look at the top 10 consumers, you realize the global economy is just this relentlessly thirsty machine, and securing that supply is an absolute matter of national security.
1.6 trillion. That's the mind-boggling number of proven oil reserves currently sitting on Earth. But here is the critical geographic reality we have to talk about. Roughly 50% of those globally proven reserves are concentrated in just one single region, the Middle East. Which brings us to Section 4, the geopolitical weapon, choke points, and sanctions. Zooming out to our widest lens, that extreme concentration of reserves has basically turned oil from a mere fuel into the ultimate geopolitical weapon. If you really want a masterclass in global vulnerability, just look at the Strait of Hormuz. We are talking about a 33-kilometer bottleneck at its narrowest point.
Through this tiny strip of water, 21 million barrels of oil are transported daily. That is up to 25% of all global seaborne oil trade, squeezing through every single day. Because it's so narrow, it's highly vulnerable to military blockades, which gives the nations bordering it immense geopolitical leverage. The crucial takeaway here is that nations actively use the control of oil to run their economies and wage bloodless wars. We saw this clear as day when the 1973 OPEC embargo nearly quadrupled prices, proving energy could entirely dictate political decisions. We saw it in the 1980 Carter Doctrine, which favored aggressive containment to ensure U.S. energy security. And we see it right now. Modern sanctions are objectively used by the US and the EU against major producers like Iran, Venezuela, and Russia to weaken rivals, reduce their influence, and choke off supply lines.
But, technology can rewrite the geopolitical map practically overnight. Take the U.S. shale revolution. By combining horizontal drilling with hydraulic fracturing, which is injecting water, chemicals, and sand into shale formations, the United States unlocked massive new reserves. Production surged from 5.8 million barrels a day in 2000 to 13.2 million by 2024. The U.S. rapidly shifted from an importer to an exporter, challenging OPEC's dominance and achieving incredible energy independence. A real game changer.
Finally, Section 5, an enduring legacy, the future of liquid power. Let's look at how this history sets the stage for today's conflicts and tomorrow's transitions. Because oil is a really volatile story, think about the massive price spikes in 2008 or the crashes in 2015. Governments literally have to plan for instability. Right now, active measures are being designed to shelter populations from oil shocks. We're talking behavioral changes like promoting increased car sharing, lowering highway speed limits, and encouraging remote work, all to reduce the immediate impact of global supply chain disruptions on everyday households. And when you impartially analyze modern flashpoints, you see they are deeply rooted in efforts to either maintain or disrupt global oil dominance. Whether it's the U.S. and Israel's tensions with Iran, political upheaval in Venezuela, or proposed infrastructure projects like a Gulf to Israel pipeline to supply Europe, energy is always at the core. There's also a strong containment angle here. Destabilizing regions like the Gulf could potentially undermine Chinese investment and choke off China's oil supply, considering 54% of their oil comes from that region.
There's this quote that perfectly captures why understanding the modern world requires understanding oil, the resource that did not merely move machines, but moved history itself. And that hits the nail on the head, right? It isn't just about fuel, it's about power. It enriched nations, defined borders, and shaped the global order over the last century in ways we've never seen before.
So I want to leave you with this final question to ponder. As the world pushes forward into a necessary green energy transition, oil remains deeply contested. But in the decades ahead, as its grip inevitably weakens, how will the map of global power redraw itself when we no longer rely on the resource that built our entire modern reality? Thank you for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the systems that power your world.